Okay. All right. It's almost human time, everybody. It's been a crazy, crazy week. We had some crazy, crazy weather. And we're going to do a crazy, crazy show. We're going to talk about stuff and junk and who's it and what's not. Sam and I are here, and we've got our good friend Jules, John, Jennifer, Jim Bill. He's going to come here and tell us about what he thinks about guns in schools, among other things. So we're almost in agreement. Check us out on your favorite podcast provider. Go to Facebook, YouTube, the X, and like us and follow us there. Tell your friends about us. We're on all your favorite podcast providers. Share us with everybody you know. And we're going to keep doing what we do. So we're going to start a show here in just a second. Hi, buddy.
Hi.
Hey.
All right. What's happening with you, friend? I haven't seen you in a whole week.
Whole bunch of nothing.
All right. Just like
Just
I said,
checking in.
There's rules. I got to
Right.
do it.
Yeah.
Because one day you're going to be like, I had the best thing ever happen to me.
Right, yeah, there's rules.
And it's going to be amazing.
Rules are in place.
So there's another voice you guys are hearing. That's the
John.
Easy E, also known as John.
It's John. No.
John had his field day today. He wants to talk about that a little bit,
Yeah,
as
definitely.
well as I want to talk to him about guns. So you can go ahead and start with your field day stuff. You were pretty had a pretty successful day as a classroom. If I saw the final scores correctly.
Indeed, you did. So in field day, this is
Indeed. Sorry.
this is specific to this year, but first I'm gonna explain to you what field day is if you don't know what
I
it
think
is.
most people know what field day is.
Okay, fair
You might have to explain something more.
complicated stuff.
No, I don't know. Maybe we'll see. If Sam knows what the game is, I'm going to guess that everybody else does too.
Okay, so I did 4 things in field race, and this year, what we did for some reason. Wait, did I say field race instead of field day? Sorry.
Roll with it. It's all good.
This year, what we did for some reason is there were trophies for what team won the most points. First place 3 points, second 2, last 1, and you want to get the most points. So yeah, that's the. So yeah,
So there was individual events, and the winners of the individual events got points for a cumulative team score.
yeah. So and the teams were the classes.
Right.
And there were 2 trophies. One for tug of war, whoever won that. And
That is
then-
the most important event of the day.
Fair point. Yeah, and then the other for winning the most amount of points, which my team got both.
Well, because you guys dominated. Not just one tug of war, dominated.
I know.
They did a double elimination tournament.
Can I explain?
Yes,
that?
sir. Please. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Dominated.
Yeah, we indeed did. Like he said, we did a double elimination, which I think that's pretty self-explanatory. 2 eliminations and you're out for good. Most people had, like, I don't know, 1 or 2 lives, like, by the end of their first few rounds, like 2 or 3. Well, no, most people had, like, 1 life after their first 3, well, no, like 2 or 3 rounds, yeah. And, our team, like, for all of it, we did not lose a single life. We had both our lives. And so it came down to the 1v1s, our team against a different team. And basically it was either we win once or they win twice. And we won the first round. So, yeah, we didn't even need any lives.
Undefeated on the day. Even the best of the not best couldn't touch the best of the best. Domination.
Mm-hmm. So, now I'm going to explain the other things I did.
Okay.
The next thing I did was pizza box relay.
That one was rough.
Do you know what that is?
No. We did a
So-
tennis ball relay back in the day.
You're basically like a pizza delivery guy, but without any vehicle. Because what you need to do is one person will go grab a pizza box, run back, give it to another person, and then they run back, get another, and that repeats for 10 times with 10 different people.
But every person in sequence has the first box.
Yeah.
The boxes are handed to them, and then they run down and pick up another. So
at the end,
second person ends
the
up with
last-
2, 3, 4, and so on.
So yeah, at the end, the last person will have 10.
Yeah, you had 9. You were the 9-box runner, right?
Yes.
Was it sponsored by a pizza place by chance?
It was not.
Okay.
It should have been, though.
They
You
were
know,
just empty pizza boxes, which didn't have logos.
preparing our children for the future. I mean, this is important stuff.
But yeah, what happened was the first few people until one classmate did really good. And then that classmate started the train wreck. But yeah, because it wasn't just him who did bad. It was a lot of people who tripped because, as you said earlier, the weather this week was horrible.
It was super breezy at the race, too. Yeah.
Yeah, especially the ends. But yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, some people tripped, and that's another reason because we were like the only team that tripped. And by the time it was my turn, most people have either tripped or dropped the boxes. And me and, I don't know, like 3 or 4 other people were the only people to not trip or
On
drop
your team?
the
Yeah,
boxes.
yeah.
Yeah, on our team. But yeah. Yeah, we didn't do well.
Yeah, I think the strategy on that one that was missed is trying to keep the boxes neat.
Yeah, no, I tried to do that while I was running. I don't think you saw, but yeah.
I did. I saw you trying to get the boxes neat and running and adding a box, and it ends up getting handed off. And I think Jack dropped like 2 on his way to pick up, and then dropped like 1 more. And so
Yeah,
it's just a tough one. So that was not your best event.
yeah.
But what was the next event?
The next event was sack race. Do you know what that is, Sam?
Everybody knows what a sack race
Yeah.
is. Come on. What did the teacher say when she was introducing it?
I don't know.
She said something about your parents did this when they were kids. Your
Oh,
grandparents
yeah.
probably did this when they were kids. Maybe even your great-grandparents have played this game.
Now I remember
Yeah.
that. So yeah, basically, it was that same thing where it was like 5 or 10 people, and so you'd go in a circle in a loop. I did pretty good, and so did the first few people, until I don't know, the 3rd or 4th person I'd say got it, and then they just, I don't know, it was essentially just walking
Yeah.
speed that they did.
Yep. I understand.
And then that just kind of continued, or they'd go so fast that they trip. So yeah, that's that.
And then your final event?
Yeah, my final event-ish, I'll get to my actual final event later.
Okay.
So my final event that gave points was 3-legged race.
Again, that's one
Yeah.
that everybody has done and participates and knows quite well.
Yeah, basically, I was teamed up with a kid who was like, I don't know, 2-3 inches taller than me. And he had never done a 3-legged race. I've done it for most of my years doing field day. But yeah. And, what I did to prepare him was we go in, out, and we holded hands to each other's shoulder so we couldn't drift apart. And at least I looked down. I don't know if he did, but I looked down until we got steady. And yeah. And then for the actual race, what happened was he like was almost dragging me for first like half-ish. I don't know if it was more or less, but yeah. And then after that we got perfectly in sync until we were able to actually run, because a lot of the people there were like, they're decently faster than us, or they were as fast, but they tripped since they weren't in sync. But yeah, and then the actual final one, it was sponge relay.
Oh yeah, that one. I forgot about that one. You're right.
It's a very weird one. Sam,
Sam, do you know what that one is?
sponge relay.
Sponge relay? No.
Yeah. So basically, it's where, or this is how we do it at least.
You gotta
So,
soak it in water and fill up a cup?
yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Ha.
Except there's
You got to hand it to the person behind you over your head,
except
so you
there's
grab the full
everyone-
sponge,
Yeah, there's everyone in our class, and
and it goes all the way down the line, and so
yeah,
there's not a lot of water left by the time it gets to the end because they're all pouring it on their own heads.
because on accident, but yeah, because what it'll be is it's timed, and then whatever team with the most points win. I think I don't know what they win for that. I don't think they win anything. It's just
Yeah, whoever gets their bucket filled first wins the thing and got the 3 points for the tournament.
yeah. I'm pretty sure that's what normally is, but our current one was just it was time for like I don't know 3 minutes.
Oh, whoever had the most water at the end of the thing. Yeah,
So,
same. Yeah,
yeah.
same idea. Yeah.
Mhm.
I get it.
Okay, and what is the next thing you'd like me to talk?
Well, that was field day. Well, no, I mean you got to finish it off with. So you guys,
Oh
you
yeah,
already told us you got both trophies, but
we
you-
won the trophy for getting the most points.
right. So your classroom dominated all things field day today, and I'm super proud of you. It was a good time.
Yeah, we got the most points by a lot. I don't remember how much, but by a lot.
Yeah, it was.
Because-
You had like 33 points, I think, is what she said, and then the second place team was 28, and the third place was 27. So it was like real close to 2-3,
Yeah, but
and then a big gap, and then you guys champions.
because the second to last one I did, the second to last one I did, right before I did the last one, the 3-legged race, I asked what our score was, and someone said around 30, and so when they put our number as 33, I knew that it was us,
Yes, sir.
because we got that 3 points.
Yep.
And I didn't think we got any points in the final one or two.
Right. Okay,
Yeah.
so in the more serious actual podcast topic part that I wanted to touch on since I got you here is the state of Tennessee passed a law that allows teachers and custodials, basically anybody that works in the school, with some rules on how and why and who's allowed to do it kind of stuff, but allows them to carry their gun with them to school if they want to.
Why? So they can't shoot it. They can't do
No,
anything.
I mean that's the point. Theoretically, is that if they need to, they have it. Is the theory, I suppose, as a way to add another. Again, this is not my take on it, but this is the pitch that the state of Tennessee Republicans, in passing this law, were putting on it. Is that it's the good guy with a gun beats the bad guy with a gun. So if some bad guy comes into the school with a gun, if you have multiple teachers or custodians or other people at the school that have guns that could help stop this person before they do a lot of damage. That's the theoretical idea. Now, there's been a lot of back and forth because the way the law is written is kind of vague, and there's a question on whether or not the schools, as a local school system, can opt out and basically say, yes, we understand that that's allowed in the state of Tennessee, but Knox County is not participating. And there was a vote on that this week, and it's not that important. But I'm just curious, like, what do you think? Would you be okay with you wouldn't get to know. That's another part of it.
I have a few things to say. The first thing is, of course, we don't really get many shooters in our school, at least.
Many?
know that's
Do you get
not
some?
Right. Tell me about when
true
you had
for
one.
others. We haven't.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just teasing about your wording. It's funny. No, I mean, and Knox County at large has not had many of any real nature. We have had incidents of students having guns at school,
Yeah.
or non-authorized personnel having guns in school, but we haven't had like a shooting in the school system other than by KPD, right?
This is a... Sorry.
Recently, I don't know the answer to that. I'm
Think so.
the Anthony Thompson Jr. one is that's the first. That's the most recent one. There was the kid at West that had one in his backpack. That he did what he dropped his backpack and it discharged. That's how he got caught, right?
I
That
don't
was
remember exactly.
that was last school year, and then it was a couple years before that was the Anthony Thompson Jr. one. I mean, I'm certain we've had incidents with weapons in schools with students and stuff like that. But as far as an actual shooting where students shoot other students in the school, or an adult even came into the school shooting, I don't know that we've had one of those in Knox County.
I don't think so.
Unless it was a police officer adult.
Yeah.
Anthony Thompson Jr. case being the specific that's coming to mind there. But anyway, you're right. It's not a common occurrence around here. So I see what you mean on that part.
I don't know, but I feel like, especially in here, like, I feel like other places should have that and not necessarily here. Here, because, well, not many shootings, but even though there is a possibility, I don't know. Like, imagine, like, a kindergarten teacher comes with their gun, and then, like, somehow a school shooting happens, and then the teacher shoots a school shooter. They're gonna get traumatized.
Sure, but there's a shooting at the school anyway, so the trauma is happening.
I mean, yeah, but
I don't
like,
disagree with you. It'd be a crazy traumatic experience for everybody involved.
yeah, I'm just saying. I feel like it'd be more traumatizing for them to see a person get shot inside their classroom or something than them just like running away or something. But I don't know. I wouldn't feel safe if my teacher brought a gun, even though it was supposed to be safe for safety.
Okay.
Yeah.
I truly am curious what your thoughts are on this. I go back and forth on how I feel about this particular one because I'm really not sure. Because you're right. I 100% you're right. That would be a terrible experience to watch your teacher shoot somebody. Even though it's the needed thing in the exact situation, that'd be a really hard time to come back to that classroom and go back to normal classes knowing that your teacher has killed somebody in front of you. That would be pretty crazy moving forward. But at the same time, had that teacher not had the ability to do that, that shooter could have come in and shot up half the kids in the classroom. And so it does theoretically maybe add you can spend some time in therapy and stuff like that and work on this trauma that you've gone through if you're alive.
Yeah.
You can't if you're dead. So I don't know the last. So just for your edification, so you as you understand it, as I understand it currently, Knox County Schools is not going to allow any teachers. I think the way they worded it in the policy statement was that the SROs, the school resource officers, KPD, and Knox County Sheriff's Office will be the security who carries weapons in school. Now, there's a big bunch back and forth about the use of the word only, because one of the versions that they were talking about had the word that saying only people that have guns in schools, where the one that actually did pass did not use the word only, but it implied strongly that it was only, but it didn't say only. And words matter in stuff like this because it technically the way it reads is it doesn't actually preclude it as a policy. It just basically says we trust that our security staff that we already have in place is good enough.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
I have a question to win an argument because, I don't know, that's kind of on topic. Is a school shooting just a kid bringing a gun and trying to shoot someone, or an adult too?
I believe the functional definition is a shooting that takes place in school.
I knew it.
Period.
Yeah.
Maybe with the exception of if the shooter is an officer.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know if they would count that. Again, I said Anthony Thompson Jr. like 6 times already. I'll say it one more time. I don't know if that was classified as a school shooting. I mean, Anthony's gun did go off in the situation, so
sorry.
I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. To be honest, the technical definition, I don't know the answer to that 100%. But my understanding of it would be, it doesn't matter who the shooter is as long as it isn't a. Yeah. It doesn't matter who the shooter is. It's just that the shooting happened in a school.
Yeah.
Now, what was the argument? Somebody was saying it's only if a kid was the shooter?
Yes.
Huh.
I disagreed, saying no. I'm pretty sure school shootings just like someone shooting a school. adult or kid. Like, not worded like that.
No, but I think you're right. I think you're 100. I think you're right. Again, I'm sure there is a legal definition somewhere. Maybe, I don't know. Does it change the charge?
I think it would be more so like if the perpetrator themselves, be it adult or student, was the perpetrator in shooting, would be considered a school shooting.
Yeah. I
where
that's kind of
I think of like even like a student or adult came in like with a knife, and then like an SRO had to discharge.
Right. I don't think they would count that.
I don't think that would be a
agree.
school shooting.
That's kind of what I was trying to say a second ago. It's like I don't know that one would count. I mean, again, the Anthony Thomas Jr. one, his gun did go off, but so did the West kid. So I mean, that wasn't a shoot. There was a shot fired, but that wasn't a shooting by definition.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like a school shooting by definition is a person who comes to a school and then tries or does shoot a student or teacher.
Goes through the action of starting, and how far they get doesn't matter. Once you start, it is a school shooting.
Yeah.
All right, man. You got anything else for us before you get out of here and go back to your more fun stuff than talking to these old people?
Do you have anything?
No, I very much appreciate you. That's a very interesting. Like, I think your perspective on this, because you're the one that would be affected by this more than I would.
Yep.
I mean, yeah. Even if I still think like 6th through 8th, like even 8th graders would also be traumatized about seeing their teachers.
I mean, I would be traumatized to see somebody. I don't think.
I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure anyone.
I think if you're not traumatized, we have bigger problems.
Yeah, like, are you a psychopath?
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, man. Get down to your things. I love your face. Thanks for sitting in.
Love you. Bye.
All right. That was interesting. I don't know. What do you think about it?
About what?
About what he said about the guns in schools thing.
I mean, I appreciate the fact that he has the forethought to think that it would be traumatizing for a teacher to have to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I think
that's big. That's mature of him.
Oh, yeah, I didn't that was not a perspective I thought of. Like, I don't. Yeah, yeah. I think as a parent, I'd be grateful to that teacher for having saved my child's life in the circumstance if that's what happened. But I could also understand.
I'm not sure
wanting
to
to transfer.
Come back to the profession.
Well, I'm just saying, as a parent of a student in that classroom, like, I could totally get behind the, thank you so much for saving my child's life. We're transferring out of your classroom. My kid can't be in your classroom anymore. They're scared, and it's not of you per se, but they're just you are the visualization of that terrible thing that happened, and they can't see you every day and move on.
But I mean, I think that would be a more rare instance that it would be that teacher that well, I guess at least in elementary school where that class stays with that one particular teacher
for the majority of the day. Yeah, that's a good point.
Right. More likely than not, it's going to be that teacher that has to deal with another student of another teacher's. Right. In the elementary school setting, I guess.
I get what you're saying. Anyway, is it like? Yeah, I was kid's smart.
I was wondering if Knox County was going to come out with that, because I know Anderson County, I think they released earlier this week or last week, saying they basically said the same thing. That
I mean, basically this whole one was a big back and forth. There was a cat bike, District 4, and board chair Christy kind of had they were like 97% identical, their resolutions that they were presenting. And honestly, the word "only" was the big difference.
Oh, really? Yeah, I heard there was one that had more of like a pushback against the bill itself.
The cat bikes addressed the bill specifically, like, we don't need you to come in here and tell us how to keep our school secure or something like that. Cat's bike was definitely more aggressive towards I mean, she's a Democrat and it's a partisan body anymore, and so they poke at each other when they can, and so hers was much more aggressively poking at the GOP for putting this together in the first place and that kind of stuff.
I don't think it would happen, but I think it'd be very interesting if like every single Tennessee county was like, no thanks.
I mean, there's
that Ryan Williams guy. I think it was Ryan Williams that was the main sponsor of the bill.
I'd be curious, because I could see it. Like I this is where I go back and forth on it. Like, I could see it making total sense out in some rural county where they don't have the budget to have an SRO or maybe more importantly their sheriff's office or their local municipality's police department doesn't have the budget to assign officers to stay at schools all day.
Right.
And it's like to me, the way the bill's written, I don't understand why anybody would do it, because the school system and the sheriff's office or the police department, whomever issues the bond or whoever passes them on whatever requirements they have to go through, are exempt from liability in the situation. So if you're the teacher that wants to carry, you're taking all the risk and getting nothing for it, except you have your gun on you in case. Like you don't get paid extra. You take on a huge amount of liability personally. So if a shooting happens and you kill that person that came into the school or whatever, and there's a wrongful death lawsuit, justified or not, on the criminal side, you're still going to have to fight that case out of your own pocket.
Would they still be covered, I guess, by like the Knox County?
No, that's what I was saying. As I understand it, all the liability would fall on that individual. And so, I think that was written in there that way to encourage sheriff's offices and stuff to permit it, to allow it. Because if the sheriff's office had to take on the liability,
are you sure about this?
I'm pretty sure about it.
Gotcha. Seems kind of weird, because you would think it would still kind of fall under the umbrella of a Knox County employee. That you would have to sue the school system versus that individual person.
I don't know. That's a good question. But as I understand it, there's I don't know. There's no protections, or maybe there's no protection from individual liability where there is in other places. Like an SRO gets involved in a situation, the Knox County schools will defend that person and their actions, and in both civil and criminal cases involved with it, and blah blah blah.
Right.
And so, for the person who wants the custodian or teacher or whatever who wants to carry, you are taking on a ton of liability, a ton of risk, and there's the only upside is in case it ever is needed, you have it, which isn't a bad. I mean, that's a pretty big upside if it ever happens. But that's a 1 in a million. I don't know what the stats are on that you would be there to take on a lot of liabilities. Anything else happens, any stupid accident, any kid finds it in your desk or something like that,
right? And
anything happens, that's all on you. Probably immediately fired, even if nothing actually happens. Like I said, but again, I could see it being a functional, meaningful, useful option for maybe a rural school district that doesn't have the budget for it. That culturally, it's a little bit more normal in that county for a lot of people just to carry all the time.
All right. That's why apparently I think it was last session, because I only heard about it when they were talking about this particular bill of allowing this, was they're like, hey, we just passed a bill and funding for schools to be able to have school resource officers.
Yeah. The state requires it, and since the state requires it, they have to pay for it. So every school in Tennessee, every public school in Tennessee has an SRO. And so but it's still state funding stuff where they play all their little fun little games. It's like, oh yeah, we required you to have SROs. Here's an extra X, number of dollars in your budget, but this other part over here, we're going to turn back a little bit. It doesn't, 6 or half dozen. Now the SRO has to be there by law, and so the school system has to pay for it, but they have to take something else out to do it.
I don't understand how a bill that adds extra funding would also have a caveat that if we give you extra funding, it also allows us to decrease funding.
Well, I mean,
in a totally separate area.
Oh, it's, as I understand it, the state law or the state law requires all school systems budgets are flat or rising every year. But what the state pitches into that budget isn't to say, like, the state, again, this is new formula talk, which I don't know the new formula as well as I knew the old formula. But the old formula was based on like it was very specific, this number of students gets a nurse, this number of students gets a teacher, this number of students gets a guidance counselor, blah, 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 blah. And the funding was all based on profession, not student numbers. That's part of the point, at least in the sales pitch of the TISA formula, is that it becomes student-based, not teacher-based. So like the old BEP formula, it was like every 20 students from up to 5th grade get a teacher. Every 100 students gets a guidance counselor. Every 700 students gets a nurse. Every 400 students gets a principal. Like that's how the old formula worked. It was literally by personnel. And then the state would go, okay, well, you have this much personnel. Here's how much we pay for teachers. Here's how much we pay for admins. Here's how much we pay for whatever. And so it didn't matter about the tenure of the teacher and whether they got raises annually because of the way your school budget worked or stuff like that. They just pay by the personnel. And so if an SRO is, $40,000 a year and that's what the state kicks in, well, the state only has to kick in the state only has to match what they kicked in last year. And so they don't have to match it in, I don't know, books or papers or capital expenditures in that total budget. So they could literally say, you're required to hire 5 more people to work for your school district, and we're giving you $0 more.
Or you said they changed it to
but
the budget has to either remain the same or rise?
Yes. It cannot. You cannot shrink a school budget by law in the state of Tennessee.
Right. So I don't see where you're getting the assumption that they could take it away if it could either stay the same or rise. It seems like you're being a Debbie Downer on that.
I am being a Debbie Downer on that because that is how they do it in practice. That's been one of the most constant things I hear when I talk to school board and teachers and Ron McPherson and them, and is the state is not paying what they wrote into law they were required to. From the BEP formula at least. So the TISA formula. This is the finishing the first year of the TISA formula. So we'll see how it continues to roll out. But with the BEP formula for Knox County specifically, for the larger counties especially, because part of the BEP formula had it's something about the size of your county functional fiscal makeup or something like that, where basically the state could say, you have to spend $600 million or whatever it is because of all the requirements that are on you. But since you have a big county, we're only going to pay $450 million because we have the ability with our economy locally to make up that difference. It's like a local makeup thing that they used to do. But it was very unclear mathematically. And so what it appeared to be by people who wanted more money for Knox County schools, at least, was that the state was taking more away from Knox County than it was supposed to by the rules that they set up. And so there was a constant, like, that was my joke. I was like, I don't want a teacher or an administrator to be when the superintendent search was going down, I was talking to one of the school boards. I was like, no, don't hire some admin that's been a teacher before or something like that. Hire a freaking lawyer. Somebody that can go after the state to give them the money they owe us. And everybody laughed exactly like you did, but sort of agreed with me. It's like, yes, that is a problem that we have as a larger county, is that we are chronically underfunded by what the state says they're going to pay us.
And they have no recourse?
No. No, not really. I mean, they could, I think, theoretically sue the state, but I don't know how that would shake out long term.
The state suing the state?
I mean, technically, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Knox County Schools isn't, I mean, it happens. Like, it's not
All right.
You've had, like, bodies of government suing each other before over different stuff.
Is the session over?
Yes.
Okay, they officially ended it.
Yeah, that was like, I think before last week's taping, they were done.
I wasn't sure. So I thought I still saw a few things rolling out. Maybe that was the week before last or something. Where Governor Lee had already said, like, okay, the voucher bill's dead, basically.
Yeah. Well, it might have been.
But then I saw a couple things roll out after that they had just passed this and this and this. And I was like, wait, I thought they were done.
Yeah, but I mean, because there's some stuff that, technically there's some stuff that he could have left on his desk and refused to sign, but by state law, if it sits there for 10 days or whatever. So it could have been passed in the House and Senate, and he was refusing to sign it, and it had that period it had to burn before it automatically went into law.
Possibly. And
so those could have come out after it ended. Very, very puff piece newsletter this week from Mr. Governor Lee, speaking of. 3 stories in his weekly newsletter is the Elvis Act. Governor Lee celebrates Tennessee music. Governor Lee tours Maury County tornado damage, and he volunteered with Tennessee Serves in Clay County. That's what your governor did this week, everybody.
Yay.
Bristol is the birthplace of country music museum. Brownsville in West Tennessee, Delta Museum, and Tina Turner Museum. Nice. And Memphis has the Stax Museum of American Soul Music. That's probably cool. I'm down with that. A little Stax action.
Yeah.
I haven't got my Marsha Blackburn letter yet today. I don't know if I missed it or it's started going into my spam folder.
Yeah, it's funny. I was actually just thinking, I was like, oh, it'd be funny to do an interesting, like, little Marsha segment and just go on her Twitter, like, Marsha says. And and just go off of, like, some, like, funky tweets
I'll tell you what,
put out this week.
I should have, I should have, like, commented or tagged on it or something like that. There was a post that Gloria put up, and at least the handful of top comments that I read, like it was Gloria calling out Marsha and the Republicans or whatever for this, that, and the other, and it was everybody was just was down on her, like, no, it's this fault, this thing's the other thing, it's your fault, you and your crazy Dem friends, and I was kind of surprised by it. I figured there would be more love in the comments just because they're people that follow her, but apparently the machine's running hard and all the haters are getting active in her site. Which one's you?
It's going to let me look since
Here it was. All right, so 9 hours ago, Gloria Johnson, 9 hours on May 10th, 9 hours ago. So about noon today, Gloria posted, the fact that the GOP claims to be the party of freedom, but they act to squash our freedoms at every turn is laughable. We need more leaders who will protect our freedom to vote, our freedom to love who we love, our freedom to make our own health decisions. So it's only 47 comments, but it's no one in the Republican Party is taking away your right to vote, your freedom to love who you choose, blah, 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 blah. Our government, like the scales of justice, is a balance of many differences with chimeric, whatever, the exact letters, whatever you're saying, stupid shit. This person says, what planet is she from? Other person says, you've aligned yourself. And this is via Holler McCall, whoever that is, with the Beacon Center, Protest Pence Cheney. I don't know what that is. And every other neocon under the sun. Rupert Murdoch, the John Birch Society, the Tennessee Tea Party, every resistance grifter on social media, and Silicon Valley scammers. And your candidacy is draining small donor dollars from electable Democrats nationwide. You are worse than pointless. You're aggressively destructive. It's a pretty rough comments in there. Anyway, the point being is that I would have expected more love in comments than the hate that she's getting. But, I don't know. You found Marsha's page?
I was kind of going down her X posts.
I mean, she says a lot of stupid shit.
And I was waiting for something ridiculous. Nothing's too ridiculous. Apparently, there was a bipartisan bill that they're calling it the Blackburn bill. So I guess maybe she was one of the main sponsors. It had to do with cyber reporting of child exploitation, I believe.
Cool.
Yeah, bipartisan bill modernizing reporting of cyber crimes against children that Biden had signed. The Report Act, I guess.
What is it? What?
I guess it stops child exploitation.
It punishes child exploitation, or it forces the reporting of it, so it turns it into. I'm interested. I'm curious.
I think it's called just the Report Act. Oh, if you were trying to look it up, sorry.
The 118th Congress Report Act, sponsored by Senator Marsha Blackburn, Republican from Tennessee. It is in the Senate Judiciary Commission. Shown here, and it passed the Senate on 12/14/23, so it's been floating around for a while. This bill makes changes to the federal framework governing the reporting of crimes involving the online sexual exploitation of children. Specifically, the bill makes changes to the requirements for electronic communication service providers and remote computing service providers to submit reports to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children when they become aware of violations involving the online site. Whoa.
That's good.
Okay, so
Joe Biden has halted military aid.
Hold on.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm back on the sexual thing. So if I'm reading this right, one, it's changes to a current bill, but whatever. The bill makes changes to requirements of electronic communications. So the original version of it, so AT&T, for example, if AT&T, who does my internet in my house, is, how do they word it? If they become aware of violations involving the online sexual exploitation of children, they're required to
report it, basically.
Report it. Okay. So
Wait, required?
Right. This bill makes changes to the requirements for electronic communication service providers and remote computing service providers to submit reports to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children when they become aware of violations involving the online sexual exploitation of children. It increases the amount of time from 90 days to 1 year that a provider must preserve the contents of a report. Requires providers to report on a violation that may be planned or imminent, and extends the requirement for providers to report apparent violations involving the sexual exploitation of children to instances involving child sex trafficking or coercion or enticement of a minor to engage in prostitution or any other illegal sexual activity. Additionally, the bill increases the maximum fines for providers who knowingly and willfully fail to submit reports. Okay, I got a lot of questions that I know you don't know the answers to. I'm really confused. So, an electronic communication service provider is what? AT&T, Comcast?
Yeah, I guess any
Bell
cell
South,
phone,
Verizon,
cell phone internet provider.
T-Mobile,
basically.
all those.
Yeah.
If you get 5G on your phone or whatever. Okay, so I mean, I get it. Like, I understand the premise of why we don't want these bad things to happen, and people to use these cool technologies for bad. But it doesn't oblige them to it infers that it is in their best interest for my telephone provider to spy on me then. Like, how are they going to become aware of? So, like, maybe a better example would be, so if I called you don't have AT&T, that's right, because you know it gets service when we go hunting. If I call whoever your cell provider is and I say, hey, I think this guy is sending kid nudie pics on his phone to his friends. They're allowed to, like, that it's a private company. I guess they are allowed to go through your data as they wish because they own the data that you use on their service. But if they do go through your data and find anything suspicious, they're required to report that. Where's the privacy part for you? Not that you shouldn't, not that, yeah. I would think that there's some expectation of privacy for you, and more than just a complaint. Like, if there's a warrant involved, sure, okay, I get it. But I don't know. Maybe I'm misreading it, but that's the way it reads to me. Is that
I'm assuming that the warrant would follow the complaint.
I mean, again, I don't have I don't have the original bill, so I don't know what the original was. But
right. I believe it would require whoever would be prosecuting it to request that via warrant.
But why would you be required as the communications company to report that to this exploited children entity in the federal government if the legal system is the one asking you to look for it? Shouldn't that warrant and legal process be the one that are collecting and sharing that information with the correct bodies? Why would that be your obligation as the internet service provider?
I mean, I'm assuming my immediate thought that it gives these companies a little bit of not necessarily like a way out, but you would have to have knowledge to then report, to where if they don't have knowledge, they don't have anything to report. To where if they're not looking.
Right, that's my question, is why would they have knowledge unless they're looking?
Right.
And so if they're not looking, okay, that seems reasonable. But if they are looking, why are they looking?
I mean, I would like to think that with that much traffic that it would take, like you said, someone reporting it to where they'd be like, oh, well
sure,
let's
I get
look
that
at
on the
traffic for this
right,
certain
but
thing.
I understand on the practical, functional of it. But there's in the principal idea of it, it's basically saying, it's basically the federal government saying, hey, tech company, at any time, we're going to ask you about somebody, and you're going to check them out for us. You're going to spy on them for us and tell us if they're doing something wrong or not. Because they can just be the one. I mean, who cares who reports it? I mean, I agree. It's obvious that it's too big that they could be doing it in real time. All the time.
Yeah, it's going to have to be retroactive.
And then here's the second issue that I have with this in principle. So, one of my kids decides to send a dick pic to some girl he's talking to at school.
Right.
That's going to come through my service. And as much as I have taught him that is not an appropriate thing to do, period, whether you're an adult or not, but especially when you're not an adult, because I don't want to get in trouble for you trying to impress some girl with your wiener. So am I going to get on some registry list because my kid is trying to impress a girl? Because according to the phone company, at least, I have 5 phones.
Right.
Again, some of that's on me as the parent for not teaching my kid better than to do so. But I'm not a fucking sexual predator because my kid wants to show some girl his dick. But I'm going to end up on a list.
I would like to think the system would be able to weed you out of that.
This is why I can't run for office, because I just had to set this out loud on tape. So, but yeah, I don't know. I would say I would hope so too. But it seems like it doesn't matter if there's a reasonable explanation. The tech company is required, when they become aware of a violation, to report it. It doesn't matter if it's understandable or if it's a mistake or if it's whatever. If there's a violation, there's a 15-year-old's penis on getting shared on a phone.
Right.
That's I don't know. That's my hot take on the topic. I don't know.
It sounds like you're leaning way too more into the constant monitoring versus, like you said, there's so much traffic that I think they can err on the side of we weren't aware of it.
Well, I mean, I agree with I do agree with what you're saying on that AT&T could be like, well, we didn't know, so it's not we didn't report it because we didn't know. Sure, right. I get that, because I don't really care about their liability in the conversation anyway. I guess my concern is it's the principle of it, in that what would be the triggering effect that would oblige AT&T, for our example that we keep running, to bother looking. Would the fact that I'm running for governor of a state be something that might inquire interest?
I would assume it would be a complaint lodged for them to be able to actually look into and pinpoint a particular.
Right. I'm not a party person, so it doesn't really matter, I guess. But I would bet that both state Republican and Democrat Party would bother running some BS complaints up the flagpole just for the sake of. I think they would. I know they would. They're out there challenging. They challenge all sorts of what do they got going on right now? What was it?
Yes, they're going to put
Arizona.
They're going to put a false report in on you, because
it's not a false report.
That wouldn't be illegal, would it?
May or may not be. What's a false report? I think I heard from somebody that he might have pics of kids on his phone. It's not a false report, but it's enough to force the look, and then the look becomes an obligation because of this law. That's the point I'm getting to. I mean, right now, I think it's Arizona that both the Republican and Democratic parties of those states are collectively suing the RFK Jr. campaign because they don't believe that all the signatures are valid. And so they're going through signature by signature. No, actually, I think it's Ohio. Anyway, I don't remember what state it is. But basically, they're having the election commission of the state is having to go through signature by signature compared to that voter's driver's license signature. And literally, signature handwriting expert compare the two on every single signature he got to get on the ballot in that state. It's not beyond like
It's not beyond party politics. I get what
right
you're
to
trying
go
to say.
to go to extremes to damage a contestant that they are concerned with that may damage theirs. That's exactly what's happening in the RFK Jr. Like, what fucking planet are we living on where another candidate into the field is a problem? Like, that should be a good thing. That's what we should be excited about.
He's got a brain worm.
He does have a brain worm. What a weird thing to
Has or had? Had. Yeah.
had. Yeah, and part of it that was crazy too is it was basically
Apparently it died. Yeah.
it was a deposition to try to get out of some alimony or something like that.
Huh? I
It had something to do with one of his divorces,
what?
like why he was on the record talking about his brainworm.
Oh. Yeah, I heard that the New York Times was the first one to report it. Was a couple of things that I've seen about it. Was the New York Times was first to report
Right.
it. I don't know where
But that's
they
the-
initially got it from.
Right, but that's like that's the perfect example, I guess, of what I'm trying to say is the lengths that if you're at the level of, they're going to go back through every tweet you ever put out, every Facebook post, every deposition, every time you've been on the record about anything, and if there's anything that they can seize on to do something with, then they're going to do it. So why wouldn't they use a law like this, to try to exploit in the same manner?
Thanks, Marsha, and thanks Biden for signing it.
I mean, I get it. I think I think if we could go through and do a bunch of these all the time, and I'm probably going to have about the same general outlook, as I probably won't like it unless it's something reducing, unless it's some reduction of power bill that passes. I'm probably going to find holes because I'm hateful that way.
Okay.
So, but I don't like Marsha, so that's a good thing, right? What do we have this week? The army teacher things we talked about with the kiddo. So UT's budget and stuff like that came out, and they were talking about it. So they're 4% out of state, 2% in state. But the biggest, they're completely changing the parking permit rules, which some of it's kind of cool for us non-students. So instead of they're going to have a bunch of meter lots. It's kind of like a meter lot, and it's an expensive meter lot. Don't get me wrong, but they're going to be set up in places for like a delivery company, or if I need to go pull paperwork, or if WUTK wants to do an interview or something like that, or I'm going down there to do something with the radio station during school time or whatever, and I want to park at Circle Park or whatever, instead of having to go in and get a day pass or a parking permit, like a temporary parking permit that they do.
Right, I did that once.
Yeah. Instead of having to do that, there's going to be, it's like, I think what it is functionally is it's like an app or a website basically where you just go park wherever you want to park, and you like take a picture of your license plate and put the space number and lot that you're in, and you're going to pay it's like $15 an hour. It's expensive because they don't want students using it for class.
All right.
But, for people that have to, it's better than going and getting a temporary permit and going across and, but it also opens up all the parking lots to everywhere. But basically they're not going to issue parking permits to freshmen, period, anymore.
The fuck?
That's a big part of it. Like, basically they're like, it's seniority, it's staff and then seniority access. So grad students, like staff gets parking passes, period. But in the commuter and non-commuter lots, it's going to be grad students, seniors, juniors, sophomores, then freshmen, and if there's any left as it goes down.
Have they ever thought about doing like a larger lot? I mean, it would take space, which UT loves buying more property,
and so does the city of Knoxville, even though it's bad for them. But yeah.
And having like the T or something.
That's one of the things they're talking about. It's like they call them satellite lots. They're putting in, but it's a satellite lot. You can get a satellite lot permit, and so instead of it being like $500 a semester for a commuter permit, it's like $100 a semester. But it's way out on the edges of campus, probably out off the ag campus, or I don't remember exactly where it is. But then the T is going to run in from there on it.
I think that would make more sense, but I don't know.
I mean, I think it's just, but apparently, like, this is how, like, what this model they're going to is how most universities do their parking. Like, the first come, first serve of the old parking permits, like, Nobody does that in colleges, which is how they used to do it. Where whatever you show up on the day and you buy the permit, I don't care what level of student you are, what grade you're in, or any of that stuff. If you got the money and here's your permit.
Yeah, I don't really know how they assign the different lots because I've seen different colored like little hang tags. I'm assuming they have some kind of significance.
It used to only be commuter and non-commuter lots. And so, like, non-commuter was like if you lived in the dorms and had a car.
Yeah. So there's some spots like right off of like 17th and Cumberland that were still like they were mostly student lots, but I think you still had to pay.
Oh, but then there's staff. Staff lots. There's orange and blue.
Staff lots, yeah.
Right. There's orange and blue when I was there, and all the blue ones were staff lots. And it was a blue tag, and then you had an orange one with a C or an NC. It's for the commuter, non-commuter.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It is weird. Like I think about that every once in a while. It's like I didn't have a car until I was off campus. Until I lived off campus. Like my freshman sophomore year, I didn't have a car. It wasn't that. It's whatever.
Where'd you leave it?
It was at my parents' house.
Okay.
I don't think I legally own the car yet. I think my dad gave me no. I don't remember when my dad sold me the car for $1. But like I mean that's the point. Like if you're living on campus, if you live in the dorms, like why would you want a car? Especially nowadays.
What do you mean especially nowadays?
Like back then we didn't have fucking, grocery
drive
delivery.
my car or call Uber to take me somewhere I want to go.
We didn't have grocery deliveries and stuff like that. Like everything I don't know.
But you still want to be able to go somewhere?
Not really. I didn't. I mean, yeah, you do, I guess. But like we didn't go anywhere. We went down to the Strip. We went to the party house on 12th and Highland.
Yeah, I mean, that gives you the opportunity to go away from campus to actually do something.
Yeah, but we like one of my suite mates had a car, so we always had the option.
So a car is semi-requisite for doing something?
It was handy for us to have, but
from...
I could have been, I don't know. Whatever. I don't remember leaving, like...
I get that you managed without the car.
It didn't bother me not having a car. And we didn't use it much.
I mean, there's a lot more going on downtown probably than there was back then.
That's also true. Right. But, I mean, they used to have the trolley. The trolley just went away this year. But, like, when I was a student when they started the trolley, but there still was no fucking downtown back then, so it didn't matter.
Is the T different from the trolley?
Yeah.
Okay.
The T is...
What trolley are you talking about?
The T is campus only. The trolley was a downtown free bus service.
They've stopped the
all
trolley?
Downtown, yeah.
Why?
Oh.
Guess people weren't riding it.
I guess.
Stop Ubering. Use the fucking trolley, assholes. Now it's gone.
I don't know.
I kept meaning to use the damn trolley because I'm pretty sure it was free, but it would go all around like downtown.
Yeah, it was free. I don't know. Like it's a mass transit in Knoxville. I don't know if it's. I'm not sure if it's a infrastructure issue or if it's a geographics issue here.
I think it's more of like a double-edged sword where not that many people used it. Kind of the same thing that's happened with the CAT bus systems. Is it?
Yeah, I'm talking mass transit full stop.
Right. But I mean, even just like the downtown trolley, I think there just weren't quite enough people using it to where it wasn't, economically functional to keep this thing up.
The CAT service at large is not like less than 10% of their revenue comes from fares. All their money is from the city of Knoxville or federal mass transit funding and stuff like that. Like CAT bus systems, near none of their income is from people paying to ride the bus.
Why do they keep cutting? Well, I don't know. My initial thought would be that it's kind of something that happened with CAT to where not as many people are riding it, so they start cutting routes.
Right.
No, I think they do that. Routes, and even less people start riding it, so it just kind of like snowballs from there.
But I think part of the reason nobody rides is it's not fucking economical. Like it's not like one. I think everything has enough parking anyway, and it's not that big a deal, whatever. But it's not the cost of it, but it's like I don't want to take an hour to go to work.
Right.
It takes me 25 minutes in traffic. I mean, I don't have a bus. I can't get on a bus without driving somewhere here anyway, because I don't have a bus that runs out here. And so, like, I don't know if I can park and ride from the mall. Do any buses actually go into the mall? I don't even think a route goes into the mall.
Buses still go to the mall, I'm pretty sure.
I'll have to
I'm
look.
assuming that's still like a main stop within
Yeah,
CAT.
like, I mean, I think it would be like if it was a deal that they'd worked out with the mall that you can park and ride, and that's not the big deal. And go park at the mall and jump. Like, if it worked, like I've said this a million times, and I will say it a million times again. Like, if this thing was like, I think, I know it's a monetary issue to build it out, but I think if we had a light rail that was just a big T shape from, like, if we took it from Turkey Creek, right? So you had Turkey Creek, Westtown Mall, Western Plaza, downtown, and then like Martin Luther King, and go like about the same distance on the east side of town, stopping somewhere, whatever makes logical sense. I don't know the east side very well. I apologize.
Yeah.
And then did another one that went like Merchants, Happy Holler area, Old City downtown is like probably one stop, I guess. Sorry. Downtown, and then went across the river to like South Knoxville, then like Moody, and terminated there. Just did that T. That was it. It went very short stop, so it's real quick. So you could literally get on the bus or get on this train at Turkey Creek and go downtown, switch to the other train, and get up to Merchants in 15, 20 minutes. And then the bus system hubbed around each of the train stops. So to get from the stop at Merchants to a specific spot on Merchants, I just hop on a bus for the next 5 minutes and get the rest of the way down the road. Where it's theoretically, that's what the bus system does. It just takes for fuck ever for the 11 that goes down Kingston Pike to get from way west Knoxville to downtown.
Yeah.
Like, it's like an hour to get from, I think it doesn't even go, I'm pretty sure they don't go out to Turkey Creek, but I would say it probably takes them about an hour to get from Westtown to the downtown transfer station.
Think so.
And then transfer and take another hour to get from downtown up Broadway to to Cedar Lane at that point. And so it's like, I could see it being, if it was functional, like if it was reasonable that I could, get in the car, drive to the mall. I got to be at work at 10. I can leave the house at 9:15. Catch this thing. Let's say going down to my central location, Happy Holler, catch this thing, hit the downtown. It goes, get it here, get off at the downtown, hop on a bus that goes up the less than a mile from where, give or take, where this downtown station would be to the Holler. I could leave at 9:15 and get there at 9:45. That'd be worth doing. Not have to worry about the car, not have to worry about parking, not have to worry about that kind of stuff. That'd be worth it. But in the current system, we're looking at like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hour ordeal. I don't want to go work in it, not me because it's different, but, a normal person doesn't want to work a 7-8 hour workday and take an hour and a half on either side of it for their commute.
Driving it yourself, like 30 minutes to do that trip is still pushing it.
What?
To get there and on time.
Never. Sometimes getting out because that one spot on 40 that sucks all the time. But I can get from here to the Central store is 10 minutes average. As long as I don't get stuck in a particular school traffic, which there's only one.
Right. Buses don't go to the interstate, though.
That's what I'm saying. But that's my point is, if we had a light rail that wasn't the buses either.
Yeah. And
when the buses could go on the interstate, there's no reason they couldn't.
I see them on there every once in a while, but I think they're just going from one place to another.
Right. But I mean, you could do it you could do my theory. You could experiment my theory with buses, and you just do express. Because that's part of the reason it takes so damn long, is because from the mall to downtown, it stops 14 times.
Right.
It stops 14 times to pick up and drop off, plus stoplights.
All right.
Now, if you take that to
and traffic,
it's only 2 stops and no red lights. That's going to cut that way down. I think it would work.
That's like a lot of cities, like they straight up have a bus lane.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're still beholden to the traffic lights, but I think for the most part they get a decent bit of right of way.
Yeah. That's a weird one. It's hard traffic. That's a lot of educated drivers that we don't have enough that drive in the roads that we have well that I would want to try to teach them that here.
I saw some story recently. They went to...
I think the way to fix it, though... I'm sorry. Just real quick. I think the way to fix it, though, is one of the things in zoning and code that I don't like that I think is a problem is required amount of parking for square footage of places. If it's a commercial build, in their design, they're required a number of spaces per square foot of commercial space. And it's like, yes, that is probably right and convenient. And yes, as a person, especially in the bar restaurant side, you want a lot of parking. It's one of the worst things you can do is have a cool happen in place for people to hang out that they can't park at. But if the mass transit system works well, I would rather have more commerce and less parking.
Yeah, like put a bus stop in front of my place, please.
Right. Put a bus stop out there and let them leave their car at home. Or let them leave their car in a big, park and ride lot, and then we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Because then people can get here from all over the place, and we don't have just mountains or just, fields and fields of parking lots. Or you go to my other thing, it's where everything has to go up on stilts, and everything has to have parking on ground level, and all the buildings are above, like the one down on campus. Anyway, you were reading a thing. I'm sorry, I interrupted that, but I wanted to get that out.
I can't remember the specifics of it, if it was a city or another country that they saw like intersections that had like, it must have been another country. Because like I said, there were no like traffic signals or like, somebody out there like physically directing traffic. But the citizens still abided by, I guess, like a stop sign or just general, traffic laws or traffic etiquette.
Interesting.
And it kind of blew their mind. Yeah, I think I was reading something about.
We had a light out on Emory yesterday.
Yeah,
because of the storm. It was weird because it was like 9 o'clock. No, it's like 10 o'clock. The power went out on half of Emory.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes just like a flicker can kind of throw off those lights. So all of a sudden they revert to like just the blinking red and blinking yellow.
This one didn't even do that, which I thought that was a standard that they'd added over the years, that all of them had some sort of battery backup that they would blink. They would go to a default blink if they lost power.
Yeah.
But I don't think these even did that because it was out.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it didn't go well.
Most people don't know what the fuck to do. They're just like, fucking, I'm going.
Yeah. Oh, that's the problem, too. It's like it gets this weirdism, like, fucking, I'm going. Everybody's saying, fucking, I'm going. And it's like, well, you're supposed to treat it like a stop sign.
Right.
If there's no signal, it's a stop sign.
Right.
But you get into these weird big intersections that are
like 3 and 4
2 or 3 lanes
wide.
each direction that are intersecting with 2 or 3 lanes each direction the other way. And there's a turn lane. And then there's a protected turn lane, and there's a right turn and a left turn lane on all of them. It gets wonky real fast, but like I kind of feel kind of bad. I'm an asshole, and I apologize. But I didn't even really pay attention until I was like in the intersection. I was just cruising with the traffic because that's part of it too. It's like when that light's green and you're driving on the road normally and you're cruising with traffic. I was just cruising with traffic, and then I was right at the line. I was like, oh, this light's out. Too late.
I usually try to go off like the person next to me. Like we both come to a stop. If it's like a little 4-way stop or whatever, I'm like, all right, they're going. I'm going with them.
Yeah, I agree. It's a mess. We're spoiled.
And sometimes, if you're in like a major street like Kingston Pike, I'm like, all right, we're going to go like 4 or 5 cars. And there's usually you have enough people that stop that kind of gets the person next to them to then stop and kind of let the other side go for a minute.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting as far as like the human behavior at play. Because I agree, because like you do see these weird where it'll be like, all right, we're going to go for like 30 seconds. And then somebody will stop, and then a bunch of people will stop around them, and then the other way will go for a little bit.
Yeah.
It kind of ends up acting like there's a light there, even though it doesn't. You're right. That's interesting.
Sometimes there's a decency to it, to where there is that kind of cognizance that, all right, that area or that intersection is like really backed up that way. Like, all right, let's relieve some of that pressure.
Sure enough. Show enough. Yeah, nothing. That's about all that. The big one, the parking thing. There was county's budget came out. It's about the same as it was last year.
I saw Jacob said, or excuse me, Mayor King said taxes were not going up.
Right.
Or
which
property.
is a
Property.
guarantee.
I think he just said property taxes.
That's the only one he can control.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there is. I think we have another 0.25% of local sales tax option that they could add.
Huh.
So it'd go from 9.25 to 9.5.
Option to take it away.
Yeah, I think it could be as little as 2%, and as much as 2.75, and we're at 2.25 because it's 7% state and 2 and whatever local.
Yeah, I just thought of it, but I wonder when we have the stadium, if we're going to be like Sevierville and start having this fucking like tourism tax bullshit, and start adding like 2% extra for coming in and spending money in Knoxville now that we're a tourist place.
You can do it at the stadium. I don't give a shit.
I don't think you can do it just the stadium. I think it has to be like a town or like some kind of central area.
Nah, they can do it as a district. You can they can do all sorts of weird little games. Like that's what there's the central business development district. That's not what it is. Central Business Investment District, which is basically downtown Market Square, Gay Street Market Square, and the Old City, which has this special little circle driven around it, and all the commercial properties in there. They pay an extra couple % property tax to the city, with the agreement that the city spends more money and energy, building up the infrastructure for the city, for them, that part of the city.
Huh. Okay.
Because I pitched it at a couple of the building owners in the holler. I was like, hey, it's your building. You're going to be the one paying the taxes. You're going to pass it off to me as the renter, but whatever.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's your property, and your property tax is going to go up. But would you be willing to take that if the city promised X, Y, and Z? They're going to take extra taxes from us, but they're going to spend that they're going to spend that extra tax money on our neighborhood, which is essentially what downtown business or downtown landowners agreed to. They said, yeah, take an extra 2%, but that extra 2% has to get spent on streetscapes, on the parks down, like the Crutch Park and that kind of stuff, on Market Square, on public parking, on trash pickup and all that kind of stuff, and litter cleanup to make the city clean and pretty and more inviting to people to come down here and spend money. So it's basically...
How do you hold the city to that?
I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, it's in writing of some sort, and so you sue them if they don't do it.
Right.
Or you threaten to sue them, and that's probably enough, because it's probably cheaper to go pick up litter than it is to pay the legal fees.
It would depend on what you're asking or requiring them to do.
Yeah, I don't know how detailed. I haven't seen. It's public record. I could probably find it.
Some figure, like, sure, we sent some street cleaners down there to like clean up the gutters. Like,
well, I mean, I would think.
Like, well, no, there's like giant cracks in the sidewalk. They're like, no, sorry, we'll clean the gutters and wash the sidewalks.
I mean, I think there's a level of its public record in that the amount of property tax collected above the standard property tax for those properties is public record. And so you could say, okay, these properties brought in $12 million, and I don't see where in the budget you spent $12 million on this street, that street, these streets that are inside the district.
Going off the 2% or whatever?
Yeah, whatever the math is.
All right.
So, I mean, I think you could run it down. And, I mean, again, it's vagary in both ways, because the city's like, well, yeah, but we spent... we gave Chief Noel permission to hire...
We spend this much for, trash pickup.
Right, but we gave Chief Noel 15, permission to hire 15 more officers, and he assigned 3 more officers to the downtown district, and that costs X, and we're counting that as part of what we are investing in you.
Right.
But, I mean, it's a mutual win for the city, because, A, that percentage in and of itself is extra cash flow, but B, every assessment, if the city continues to grow and be more valuable, that total tax revenue is going to go up for the totality of the expenditures. I don't think any mayor is ever going to scoff at the idea of being like, look how much better and more active my downtown is from the day I started to the day I left. They're going to brag on that their entire term. Like, we have a vibrant and happening and entertainment and culturally diverse and blah, 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 blah. They're going to brag on that shit all the time. And so really, it was a genius move on the city's part to get these businesses to pay a little extra. Because they should be doing it anyway, I would think. Because that's the easiest way for them to make the biggest impact on, hey, I as the mayor, look how awesome the city is because of me. And so getting those businesses to pay a little extra is a super win on the mayor's part. But whatever. I'm down with the mutual exchange if all parties agreed with it. I got no problem with it.
I like the idea of the mutual agreement.
I mean, it certainly worked, whether it's that because of that or just because of Ruggiero and
Right.
Who was before Ruggiero? Ash?
No. I'm not sure.
Burchett? Not Burchett. Haslam?
City mayor? No, I don't think Haslam was city mayor.
Was he county?
No, maybe he was city
I
mayor.
think he was city. Anyway. That stuff. I mean, it certainly worked. I mean, it has. I mean, we were talking about it last week. The Census Bureau is estimating that we earlier this year, we broke the 500,000 people in Knox County mark. And as much as I think the city population only went up, I think the city was 180 at the 2020. It's like 182 and some change at the 2020 census. And they estimate that the city is only at like 185 now or 186. So the city has grown very little, where the county is, like the total county has grown. Like the city residents has gone up like 2,500, 3,500 people. And the county has gone up like 15,000, 20,000 people.
Right.
But that includes that portion of people. But it's also just, it's the way, like, again, this is why Metro is the right fucking answer around here. Because, again, we compare ourselves to Chattanooga all the time. That's what we were talking about last week. Like, compare, like, the city of Chattanooga and the city of Knoxville are very comparable size-wise. I think the city of Knoxville, with or without students, is now officially standard larger than Chattanooga by a handful. Not a huge number, but I think it's like Chattanooga is like 176, and we're like 182 with or without students. It's like, half dozen here, whatever. It's not that big a difference. But Hamilton County?
Yeah.
We do this every fucking time. Hamilton County is like 270,000 people. So there's only 100,000 people in the rest of the county, where we have we more than double. Well, that's weird math. Unincorporated residents of Knox County are 300 and some change. I mean, that's the only way the math makes sense. Like 320,000 residents in Knox County that aren't in the city, and then like 180 in the city.
Yeah.
So we have 3 times as many county residents as Hamilton does. So to me, like, because I don't know, to me, like, I'm sure Hamilton County people, like, somebody's like, yeah, I'm from Ooltewah, I'm not from Chattanooga. Whatever. You're all from Chattanooga. That's what you tell people when you're out of state, at least.
Is Ooltewah in that county?
I don't know. That's
Okay.
that's the closest
Right.
thing I could come up with. But like, it's like, because like, I mean, that's like, I grew up in Racine, Wisconsin. I tell people I grew up in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
That when I'm here, if I'm talking to somebody that knows Wisconsin, I'll tell them I'm from Racine because they know the difference. Like, I'm from Knoxville. I live in Knoxville. I even in Knoxville, I'll tell people I'm from Knoxville.
Yeah.
If I'm in Chattanooga, I'm going to say I'm from Chattanooga. But if I'm in the other parts of Hamilton County, I'll probably say I'm in that part of Hamilton County. Like I could, I don't know. I just think it is not 2 separate entities here. It's not 2 functionally separate entities. It's 2 politically different entities, I suppose, just because of the demographics who bother to vote. But it's not. It's one single entity. It doesn't make sense that we have this separated body. And Farragut's another problem in that too. Like Farragut doesn't need to exist as its own governmental body. I think all 3 of these need to pile down into one. Because it's just functionally the reality of what's going to happen.
You're taking away their identity.
Fuck their identity. Their identity ain't shit. There's a bunch of pompous fucking assholes out there who don't want signs that are very tall and don't like people. They just don't want people around.
We just like the way the things were,
Yeah, I agree. I like the way the things were too. But the reality is what it is. And so you could either pretend like you can stop it, which you can't, or get on board. That's my problem with it. It's like it's not even a conversation about whether or not we can functionally do anything about it. Because at least so far, at least, nobody's answered the question. It's like, how do we stop it? Because obviously we don't want it. And the only answer that I can think of, and from a governmental policy standpoint, would be we raise the shit out of property tax. We raise the shit out of we change codes to make it really complicated and hard to build, and we basically disincentivize people from wanting to live here.
All right.
Your grandfather shit in. So if you already live here and you already own a house, your property tax is going to have to go up because we can't pick and choose on that one. But if your house is already here, we change code. You don't have to abide because your house was already here. But if you want to build a new house, it's twice as expensive now because, we have some earthquake proof requirement now or something like that. Just make it stupid and make it, which for those of us that happen to own houses in Knoxville is great. Because then our home values will quadruple, and I'll somehow be in $1 million house here because you can't build new houses. And so it gets into this weird game where it's like the only way you're going to stop growth is by making it unattractive. And nobody that lives here wants it to be unattractive. They just don't want people moving here. It's like, well, you can't have both.
Right.
Either
it's a double-edged sword of like, hey, we've got low taxes. It's like, okay, eventually, more and more people are going to figure out we have low taxes here, and people are going to start moving.
Yeah,
in.
Tennessee is like top 5 in migration states in the nation.
Yeah, I saw that as far as there was a lot of retirees that were moving here just for low taxes.
There's all sorts. There's all sorts. It's all over there's all kinds are moving here. They're just getting the fuck out.
Right.
Hell, our very best friends, our kids' very best friends are from Vegas. I was like, why'd you guys come to Knoxville? I just read about it in something. We were trying to, he does, not remote work. How do you, he's a government contractor. Wink, wink, say no more, whatever. And so he goes out on contract jobs for a month at a time, 2 months at a time. Doesn't really matter where he lives because 90% of his work is not going to be where he lives no matter where he lives.
Right.
And so this job, he just came back last time we talked. He was doing a job that he's been on for 6 months in Alabama. So go down to Alabama for 2 weeks at a time, come home for a week, go down for 2 weeks, come home for a week, just go back and forth and all that. And then before that he was doing this, and he's talking about taking a job in the Philippines here in a couple of years or in a couple of weeks, and maybe doing half of the summer, bringing the whole family over to the Philippines and taking doing a summer vacation in the Philippines while he's working over there. And just weird shit like that. It's kind of cool. It's kind of not, because it's one of those jobs that you might die doing. It's like a top 10 get you killed at work kind of job.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter where home is. And so they're Vegas is expensive, and we don't want to be here anymore. Where are we going? And so they were looking around for a place to move. They had no particular. There was nothing about Knoxville. There was no connection here. They read in a magazine that Knoxville was a cool place. And so they flew out and hung out.
Really?
Yeah, they flew out and hung out and drove around town for a weekend or something like that, and met with some realtors, and came back a couple weeks later and looked at houses and found that house and bought that house. And I'm glad they did. They're cool people. I'm not mad at it or whatever. It's just, I'm just saying that was it. It was literally I don't have to be anywhere. Nothing matters where I am. Where I want to go.
Right. That's another thing. Added to it is people that can work from home.
Right.
Is that people did start moving to lower cost areas of just being their home base of sorts.
Right. And I think the real question. I think the real question is how this changes our local politics. It's going to be very interesting. Our local and state politics changes. Because it's a weird dynamic. Because it's hey man, you left New York or California or, wherever you came, Pennsylvania, wherever you came from, for a reason. But you are electing different people into office from different parties because they more align with your values. It's well, the place you left was aligned with your values. Then why'd you leave? I mean, I know the answer to that, and I think because I think the reality, and I would argue to the death, is the only actual political issue that matters is economics to anybody realistically, at least to the mass. There are people that are particular about certain issues. But for most people, it's just economics.
Yeah.
And they don't, but it's still like, hey man, you left New York to come down here? Great. There's a reason that you came down here.
Should they leave their political beliefs there?
Well, obviously.
Or are they no longer?
I'm not saying they're no longer valid or anything, but it's like, hey man, you left there for a reason. Why'd you leave? Well, I wanted a bigger house, more space, lower taxes. Okay, well those things were here because of some of what, a good chunk of that was because of the way this government worked here. So if you come down here and change this government, you don't think that's true?
No.
Okay. So when I came down here because it's cheaper cost of living, is not not a Tennessee government issue?
It's more has to do with TVA. We get a lot more subsidies as far as electrical power.
You keep leaning on that one. I don't understand. I get what you're saying. Yes, okay, fine. One particular subset of things is functionally cheaper here because of a subsidy because of TVA. Yes. But I really don't think utility cost is that huge in the grand scheme of cost of living. I'm not saying it's not impactful, but on the whole, I would say it's like less than 25% of the cost of living issues.
So why do you think it is more expensive in quote unquote democratic areas?
I think taxes are generally higher.
Why? Why do you think?
I don't think that it's a thought. I think that it's a fact. I believe that you have higher property taxes.
Okay, sorry. The fact is, why is the fact that taxes are higher in more democratic states?
I don't because
Pennsylvania. You mentioned Pennsylvania.
Because the legislature of those
whatever you want to reference.
The legislature of those states put those taxes in place.
Okay. What kind of taxes do you think that are higher that they have there that we don't have here?
I believe New York has an income tax.
State income tax, okay.
Right.
Which we don't have, okay.
Right, which is huge. I mean, it's significant.
Gotcha. Because those are Democrats that voted this in years ago, probably? Most likely?
Okay. The Democrats that are currently holding the seats aren't voting it out.
Okay.
I would say
enough.
I think their property tax is generally higher, maybe not hugely different, but there's probably an average of a couple percent, 0.5% to a couple percent on property taxes that are higher in those locations. I think the population density, which that's not really necessarily a political issue. I mean, it isn't.
It's probably more to the cost of having to raise taxes is population density. Yeah? No?
I don't know.
Maybe. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. More people living in an area may cost that area that much more money.
I mean, they can if they want the services. You don't have to. I mean, what do you want to say?
Sure. Yeah. If you want the services, if you want, fire and police, I mean, it's just going to cost you more money because there's more of us here. I mean,
it shouldn't functionally, realistically.
It shouldn't.
No.
Why not?
Because if it at some point it's a ratio, right? We have one policeman per 100 people. It's some sort of mathematical ratio. I don't know exactly what it is, right? So
I don't know what you're talking about.
You shouldn't have to raise taxes to raise income if you have more people moving here, right? That's how Mayor Jacobs was gotten away with not raising taxes year after year, but still getting a bigger budget year after year. Because we're making more income because more people live here. More people live here. We have more property tax. Our property values have gone up too. But we're also generating more sales tax because we have more people here spending money here. Right? So, yes, the total budget is going to go up with more people living here, but it doesn't mean the taxes have to go up to get equatable services, theoretically. I know that's not 100% factual. Apples to apples, as you like to say. It's not a quite apples to apples argument. But yes, I don't know. I'm confused. Hold on. So it's pure coincidence that strongly blue states seem to be the losers in the democratic shift. In the demographic shift in this internal migration that's going on right now. Red states tend to be taking more people in, and blue states seem to be losing more people. That's not related to the politics. It's just coincidence that that's generally what's going on. It's not perfect. It's not 1-to-1. But that is generally what's actually happening, truthfully.
No, I don't think politics has as much to do with it. I think it's that weird quandary we've talked about before, and I don't think anybody's really come up with a good explanation as to why, more cities, large cities, tend to be more democratic, and more sparsely populated areas tend to be more Republican-leaning.
I mean, I
think it's
we've
more
had some
so
guesses
where-
that we've thrown around, yeah.
Right. So I think it's more so the fact that you do, maybe people are finally coming to realization of super crowded areas. They'd like to go to a place that are more sparsely populated to then have a lower cost of living because, for whatever reason, those sparsely populated areas are able to survive with so few people. Oh, because they get low taxes.
I don't.
I mean, I don't know how sparsely populated areas survive at low taxes.
Because you don't get shit. You don't pay taxes, and you don't get anything for it. And that's the exchange. That's what I think people want in sparsely populated areas is they don't want anything. They want to just live their fucking lives over here and not have. I don't need trash pickup. I don't need X. I don't need Y. I don't need Z. How else do you explain it? I don't like what are the top factors in cost of living?
And cost
Is it more expensive? Like, is it functionally more expensive to get a head of lettuce to Knoxville than it is to get a head of lettuce to Nashville?
Depending on where it comes from.
Nashville's not a good example. We're still going to say Chicago. Maybe that's a better example. I bet you.
Same answer.
I bet you lettuce that comes
Depends
to
on
Knoxville.
where it comes. Depends on where it fucking comes from.
I bet you a lot of lettuce that comes to Knoxville goes through Chicago to get here.
Why do we think that?
Because if it
Is that
goes,
where the big lettuce brokering market is?
Chicago, the Chicago rail yards, yeah, about everything. So much shit goes through Chicago if it's going cross country.
The biggest beef market, yes.
So I don't know. Lettuce might not be. Maybe beef. Maybe that's a better example. But
I mean,
again,
that's what it used to be. I don't know where the fuck the logistics of how produce and meat get to market these days. But for long, that was Chicago's big thing. Was they had that was where most of the meat coming from out west, which was much more where the cattle was out west, was where it all came into to then get redistributed
up into specifically into the Northeast more than anything.
Right. Because that's where the majority of the population was.
Oh, and considering calculating costs of living, cost of housing, cost of food, cost of clothing, cost of education, healthcare, transportation, taxes, and additional expenses.
Thanks, Google.
I mean, that's from Indeed.
Yeah.
So that's people looking for jobs and how to say, okay, well, can I take $40,000 a year to work here, or do I need to? Or I have the same job in two places. One's going to pay 60, one's going to pay 40, but 40 may actually be more valuable because where that $40,000 a year job is so much cheaper to live.
Right. I mean, you may move to a more sparse populated area, but you may be having a much longer commute. You must be paying that much more for going to a general store to buy your goods versus going to a national department store. That department store may have lower prices, where that general store that has a lower supply of things may charge you that much more because they don't have that kind of buying power.
All right. So Chase.com's breakdown is, in short, housing, food, healthcare, taxes are the top factors in cost of living.
Yeah. Okay.
So housing availability is one of those things. You get into more densely populated places, housing availability usually comes down because the more densely populated it is, the more houses there may be, but the less availability there is because there's more people there, which we are not in a good position with that. We've actually, in Knox County, have surpassed the national average. Our houses are now more expensive than average here because of the influx of people. So our cost of living is going up for that part. I don't know where our.
Are you saying cost of living should go down in cities? Because
No,
you think
it's-
there's more availability of
No,
it?
it's the other. No, I'm saying cost of living.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Cost of living is up. The availability, the more densely populated, the less availability of housing there is.
Okay.
Which is why
That
we're having the situation we are, because the influx of people is outpacing the production of new homes. More people are moving here than we can. People are moving here faster than we can build houses for them to live in. So the value of the houses are going up. The houses' value going up means your rents and shit like that are going up, which means it's more expensive to live here than it was before.
I mean, that's all across the U.S.
I still don't understand that. It still confuses the shit out of me.
Well, I've seen a couple things that, like, the decline of actually building houses goes back, like, a couple decades. Like, it's nothing new, but the actual, like, rate in which, you know, companies
But as our
were building
population
houses.
Again, functional, like, demographic movement is one thing, but has our population increase outpaced the production of homes? Or has that outpacing gone up, or is it only because of the demographic shift?
That I'm not 100% sure. But I mean, even just like the average like rate in which houses were being built has gone down from what I'd seen.
Right. Yeah, right. But the question is compared to...
Even
And
I'm
where?
assuming that was in comparison of, you know, population growth at that time. But I mean, even going, pretty sure what I saw was even
Right.
going back like 15, 20 years, like the rate in which we were building houses.
It's weird. That's just weird. I don't understand it. Like, I really don't understand that part of it. I mean, I do.
I hate to say it's an inside game. You know, those home builders that are building houses, maybe they're like, hey, if we slow
we can
down a
keep
little
price
bit,
up. Right.
we can,
We can keep
start
we
getting
can keep
that
our
much
sales price
more
up.
for building the same houses.
Yeah. But then you also have stuff. I mean, you know, but you also have stuff that we clearly see every fucking planning commission, every county commission, every city council meeting is developers want to come in and build stuff, and the neighbors don't want it built there. And you know, it's nickels and dimes to those guys because of the way their finances work. But it's like every week, every month, every year that a property that a developer wants to build something on sits empty is a year that they're not profiting off it, and a year that somebody isn't living on that piece of land because they're not building the thing that they wanted to build. They're just sitting on a vacant lot. And developers are weird. I don't understand that.
I mean, am I wrong to think that's in the assumption that they're twiddling their thumbs, just not doing anything else, and that was the only project they were relying on?
No, absolutely not. They have a million projects going on.
Okay.
But it's still like if the point is
Is it money lost?
No. Well,
Potential money lost, maybe?
yeah. It's potential money loss. I mean, you know,
I guess depending on how much money they spent in trying to court.
right. There's absolutely the cost of going through the process and going to the meetings and doing all this shit, and you know, you hire the architects and the engineers and they draw up the plans, and the city or the county or the planning commission or the neighbors say no, that's not okay, and then you have to redraw the plans, and there's those costs at play, which are, I mean, that's again nickels and dimes to those guys,
Right.
but it's not nothing.
But it's not anything out of the ordinary. Like, you're always going to have that process of if you want any kind of thing built.
Sure, but it's like, well, but again, it's like, well, if we're surmising that it is possible that some of these home builders are slowing down their build rates because that's a way for them to keep their prices up so that they can make more money over time, it kind of that's kind of juxtapose that against a builder who wants to build who's getting told he can't. And it's like, well, what are we thinking here? Are we thinking that the established builder that's holding on to stuff and slowing down is influencing not letting other builders come in and build stuff? Or is it that the conservative nature of I don't want that thing built next to me is more impactful than the monetary wants of the builders in the first place? Because to me, it lends on the latter, not the former, because the former seems unlikely. Because a number of the developers that we see at these city county meetings or these planning commission meetings are the same developers that you would assume would be the ones that might be the ones manipulating the market to keep their values up.
No, I still get the feeling that, you know, a lot of what's built, I don't know if we've just kind of come to a precipice to where it's gotten to the point to where for something to be profitable, the only way to make a profit is to make something that's pretty expensive.
That's part of it for sure, 100%. Like luxury condos and higher end housing.
I don't know if they just look at the profit margin to like, hey, we can build a $75,000 house for $30,000 or whatever.
Right.
But we can build a $500,000 house for $75,000.
Right. There's absolutely better margin in the higher end market, 100%.
Yeah.
Not
like we can make it look nice, but it's still pretty fucking cheap.
Not that extreme.
But it looks nice.
I don't think it's that extreme. I think it's like, we're going to build a $500,000 house for $200,000.
Right.
So we have 150% markup versus we're going to build a $100,000 house for $50,000. So we only have 100% markup.
Right.
But either way, but functionally that doesn't make sense to me either, because it's like, okay, well, the people that can afford that $500,000 house, that's just not a huge list of people.
I mean, some of it's, like you said, it's a planning thing, so some of it's a space thing.
But I'm just saying, like, that it's a short list of people that are going to be able to afford that $500,000-$600,000 house.
Right.
And so when those people come in and buy that house, they're vacating somewhere.
Well, but at that level, you're much more guaranteed.
Yeah, no, I'm agreeing with you. I'm just saying, but in the grand scheme of the market, it's like, well, those 500, the people that can afford that are coming out of something. They didn't just appear. I mean, I guess some of them have moved to town, but some of them are people, or at least traditionally, some of them are people that are moving up in their house. They owned a house before, and they're going to sell that house to move into this new house.
Right.
Well, that house they're selling should be what is now the middle market, and then whoever is buying that middle market house is moving from somewhere else, right? And presumably they're stepping up in their purchase, and now a lower middle market house is available.
Right.
And so even though it's like, well, we don't need more luxury houses on the market, it's like, well, by building a luxury house, within a year you should end up with a middle-low market house on the market, because it's going to step up through the process.
Right. That's assuming people have the ability to move up. But as we're finding more and more often that people don't have that ability to move up.
But these developers know what they're doing. They know the market's there, so they're not going to build it if they don't think they can sell it.
They know there's people that can buy it. I mean, whether or not it's, some conglomeration that wants to just turn that into a short-term rental.
Right. That's a problem. And I don't like that. I know there were some moves to make. I think it was a federal. No, where was it? It was Michigan. I think the Michigan legislature is kind of making some moves to try to make that a bigger issue.
I would like to see it.
Basically with it, and I don't know. I get it. I'm not sure how I feel about it philosophically, but I get it on a practical basis. It's like, if you own more than 50 residences, basically that's how they were cutting it. I don't remember if it was 50 or not, but it's 1 to 5. Here's your tax bracket. Here's your property tax thing. When you get to 5 to 50, you have a higher tax rate. You get 50 to 100, you have a higher tax rate. You get above 100, you have a significantly higher tax rate.
Right.
As a way to discourage that, because what they want to do is they want to set the tax rate at a level that outpaces your return on your investment if you're a annuity or whatever it is. One of these big fucking like Berkshire Hathaway kind of things. Like,
right.
You want the tax to outpace it, so that keeps Berkshire Hathaway from buying it, or BlackRock, I think, is one of the ones that's really active in it.
Right.
You want it to be like, okay, well, as an investor, it's not going to come. We're not going to get a return after taxes.
Yeah. So
we're going to stay away from that, and that's what they want. And I don't know. Philosophically, I have some issues with that, but practically, I get it. I wouldn't oppose that. That's
even, the capitalist standpoint, definitely like, if somebody has the money, let them buy whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
And do whatever they want with it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're talking about, a housing crunch, and you have, some major companies that are buying up large portions of the housing.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're 100% right. And that's one of the things I really fucking struggle with, because this is one thing I'm trying to, this is mass economy.
You're just like, well, we can make money off of it.
Well, it's like, have you seen the graphic of like the conglomerates that we have in this country? It's like all the brands, every brand you can fucking imagine.
Yeah, I've seen that a few times.
And who owns them, kind of thing.
Right.
And it's like 5 companies.
Right. Yeah, like Kraft's a big one that owns a plethora of subgenre companies.
Have you seen the roast of Tom Brady yet?
No, somebody
watched
told me a
it.
tiny
I've seen
tiny
some
bit about it today.
Apparently, like, I mean, it was brutal and it was good. Everybody talks about how great it was, but there was only one.
Apparently, he got pretty pissed off at a couple things that were mentioned.
Right.
to
Well,
him.
I mean, there was a one point in his Ross.
But the guy was telling me about it was trying to remember his name as well. Jeff Ross.
Jeff Ross, who's like, he's like the roast master. He's done a bunch of roasts and stuff like that.
Right.
Which I'm not a big fan of roasts. I don't really get it as a thing. They're fun, I guess, but like it's not really. I don't really see the great humor in it. But anyway, Jeff Ross is doing his bit, and he starts laying into Robert Kraft about the massage parlor stuff.
I was asking him about that. I was like, do they ask him about getting like rubbing tugs?
And Tom Brady, who was the target of the total roast, gets up in his ear and is like, "We're not talking about that." Like, and you can hear it in the microphone. And I don't know if that was part of the bit or if that was legitimate.
Right.
But like, I did hear from, I think it was on. I got a clip. I think it was a clip from the one of the Segura. It was either Your Mom's House or Two Bears podcast, where they were talking about it. And it's like nobody knew that Robert Kraft was coming until he was there.
Huh.
And you know, he's like, whoever, like, I think it was Segura was saying, like, we were talking, like, you know, we had the producers and all the managers and everybody that was there, and we're talking about it. It's like, they did that on purpose, didn't they? They didn't want any of the comedians to have any time to prep any material for Kraft being there.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's the theory, at least, is that, like,
Right.
nobody knew he was coming
Kind of makes
until he
sense.
was there, because they were trying to protect him from what was going to happen. And Tom Brady gets up in the middle of Jeff Ross going off on Kraft and says, "We're not talking about that."
Right. Yeah, I
And
heard
so-
like that Jeff Ross guy initially came out in like some kind of outfit that was an OJ homage.
He's
I
hilarious.
guess that was like numbers that like the numbers had like blood running down it or whatever.
Oh, that's funny.
It was talking about like ex-wives or whatever.
Yeah, that's funny. I haven't watched the totality of it yet. I've seen a bunch of clips from it, a bunch of different parts and pieces, but I haven't actually seen it in its entirety yet. But yeah, anyway, like to go back to the economics of it, like that's the thing. Like, it's like in my free market, like economics, like model image, what makes actual sense to me. And I can't figure out how we got to where we are and how to get out of it. Because there's this illusion, like, it doesn't make, okay, so we're going, like, post-pandemic, it's been this constant, what the new term that's been, have you heard the new term, greedflation?
No.
I mean, it's essentially, it's the truth, and I don't disagree with it functionally. It's that a big chunk of what this inflation that we've gone through over the last couple of years has been corporate pricing, because they could get away with it. We've joked about it in that it's the, you know, and I know you know this part of it. It's where, like, companies were changing their prices on the assumption that inflation was coming.
Right.
And then the inflation never came, but their excuse was like, well, inflation.
Right.
But then they get to their quarterly profit reports and it's record profits and stock buybacks and blah, blah, blah.
Okay, yeah.
You know, and so the term has come out of greedflation, and it's literally that these major conglomerates did this big pricing move to try to get ahead of the curve on inflation and ended up actually functionally causing the inflation as part of the process. I don't know if that's exactly how it broke down, but it certainly seems like it's something like that.
So there's definitely a little bit of it.
But my problem is like what doesn't make fucking sense to me. It's like we were talking about apples last week and asparagus and all the other different shit that goes in the market. It's like, why? How is it that we haven't had, especially with the technology and stuff that's going on, that we haven't had other players come into the game? Whatever game you want to pick, whatever subset of economics you want to pick. You know, like I was watching Nightly News the other night, which I try not to watch because I get so angry every time I watch it. But there's a Chinese car company.
Why are you getting angry?
I always get mad at the way they cover shit. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Chinese car company that's doing all electric cars. That they're talking like, what if they got into the U.S. market before tariff and all that kind of stuff, might be like a $10,000, you know, functionally like what we would consider a mid-range car, not a luxury, but not like a super economy car.
Right.
All electric vehicles. Like it's all they do is electric cars, but it would be comparable to probably like I'm probably a Hyundai. Like, what do you got? The Sonata.
Elantra.
Yeah, like, you know, like you got the Elantra hatchback or whatever, which is a cool little car. Like functionally, you know, it's about that car. It's not super cheap. but it's not like a luxury electric car or whatever. But it's this Chinese company that's been making them for a little while now, and they're huge. They're making millions of cars a day or some shit like that right now. And there's a bunch of pushback from American automakers because they don't want them to come into the market and stuff like that. It's like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, functionally, this is the way free market's supposed to work. It's like, Chevy and Ford aren't ready to have their e-cars hit the market yet. And if this car hits the market before their e-cars hit the market, they're never going to be able to compete with them because they can't come close to that price point, and they don't have the quality of car that they're putting out yet either. It's like, well, get your shit together, Ford. What the fuck are we doing? Like, that's the thing about the U.S. economy that drives me crazy. It's like, so you acknowledge the fact that this Chinese car, and probably with some fuckery from the Chinese government, because that's what they do, but this Chinese car could come get shipped over here and be like a $10,000 in the showroom, go buy it today for $10,000, good electric car. That's a very affordable, I mean, that's a straight up affordable car, period, regardless whether it's electric or not. But that's an affordable car that people could buy in mass. They could get them from here to there, do all that kind of shit that a car needs to do. And the response from American manufacturers is, don't let them ship it over here because we can't compete with that. Well, who's winning from that conversation? And who's losing? The Chinese manufacturer is losing because they don't get our market, but me and you are losing. Because what should be happening is Ford and Chevy and everybody else should be freaking the fuck out and figuring out how to make a $10,000 electric car now. But they're not. And why not? Because they don't have to, because they know that Trump or Biden or whoever is going to keep that car out of the U.S. market. Because there's talks apparently of this Chinese company moving manufacturing to Mexico so they can bypass some of the Chinese tariffs. Which totally makes sense. Smart move on the Chinese company part.
I mean, that's under the assumption that it is a good quality. And
you're right. I don't know if it is or not because we haven't seen it. But it's still, we'll figure it out really fucking quick.
Right.
They ship the first million over here and they get sold real fast because they're so damn cheap. And they only run for a year. Well, they're going to stop selling pretty fast. But again, it's like that. But that's like just market economics to me says, no, Ford, you don't get to say, Mr. Biden, please don't let that car come in here. You go down and you sit down with your engineers and you figure out how to beat it. But you're not going to do that because you have ways to not. And that's the problem to me. Like, to me, like if I'm the czar of the United States and I had the power to do that, and Ford and GM and Stellantis or whatever that owns everybody now comes to me and is like, you can't let them in here with that car. Why not? Because we can't compete with that and we'll lose all these jobs and stuff. Well, why don't you figure out how to make a car that can beat them? I'd rather buy yours because you're my neighbor. But if I have to pay 3 times as much for yours, I'm going to buy that car. What do you want me to do? There's no competition in this. Figure it out. Beat them. Build a better car. Make it worth $15,000 and you'll still sell. Or make it worth $10,000 and you'll be right in the market with them. I know I would argue that most people, if you had a Ford brand whatever car next to, I don't even know the name of this company, in a showroom when they were both $10,000, more people would buy the Ford than the other one. At least initially. Now, if the Ford one sucks and the other one's good, and in the subsequent months and years we see the quality difference, then yeah, it might shift one way or the other. But if all things are equal, I think more people are going to buy an American-made version of a thing if everything else is equal.
Am I wrong to think that I don't see why Ford or another company wouldn't just buy that out and either A, run with that plan, or B, kill it? I mean,
they could. That's an option, and that's a free market option. But I think this company's at this point, this company's too big for that. They're making tons of cars a day in China. Like, this would be probably a multi-billion-dollar, maybe into the close to the $1 trillion range acquisition if they tried to buy it.
Most of what I've read as far as like buying a car in China is miles beyond what it is here. Like you almost like get into a queue, a line, a queue as the British
you're
like
such
to
an
say.
Anglophile.
You get into a list of people to actually be able to like buy a car. You go into a showroom and like get onto a list of like your chance to be able to buy a car.
Yeah, but is that because of
But
market?
I'm saying like if this company is cranking out that much.
But that again, that's the fuckery that I'm referencing. It's like, is that because of market issues, or is that because the government involvement in the car company is saying we only want you to make so many?
That's hard to say.
It could be either. I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, it seems like, it seems to me like, again, that's that company's job to figure out, right? Because you're not going to do well in the U.S. market if you drop this cool product on and you can't have it. You might actually. American consumers are kind of weird.
I love that shit.
Bearded Iris is not that great a beer, but everybody freaks out because their shit's never available. Same thing that damn PB&J. I like Zool, don't get me wrong, but that Zool PB&J everybody gets all excited about. It's okay. But it's not, I'm not excited about it. Like, I'm not freaking out. Like, oh, they're canning it this weekend. I'm going to go wait in line for 2 hours to buy a case.
Right. But it's a scarcity of it.
But they never have it, so you
I got to have it because it's rarely there.
Sure. But
no, you got to have it because you
if
want it.
part of it, but if part of that, if that works on some things, but that's not going to work on something that's an economy price thing. That is,
well, if it's just a population thing, of just they
right,
just have a giant population.
Anyway, but you're missing that you're not wrong, but that's not the point at all. The point here is, our major manufacturers in that market would rather figure out how to stop a competitor than to beat them. That's the problem. The problem is that the answer isn't let's do better. It's let's manipulate our policy so that we don't have to.
I mean, I say for the most part, I don't see the American auto industry as trying to strive for much better.
Exactly, because they don't have to. That's my point. They don't have to, because they have ways to stay competitive and to continue their sales and make their money. That isn't to do better. That's the problem, and that is a governmental problem because we as people are electing people who are letting them. That's my point. I think you're agreeing with me. I don't know why you're giving me that look.
Well, no, I that's with the expectation that the federal government is putting that much more of a thumb on the scale of the American auto industry.
I think they are. I mean, if
as far as what
if they go through with
as far as what they produce, the American government has tried to put regulations in place as far as we've set fucking miles per gallon goals out to whatever that are fucking meaningless.
I agree, but I disagree. Like, part of that is like that was a thing that was important, but at this point that ship has sailed. Electric cars are the future. Full stop. There is no conversation that isn't we're going to all be driving electric cars sooner than later.
Why?
Because that's where that is where the market's going. Whether this global warming thing is a scam or not, it doesn't really matter.
It's all a big scam. Yeah. Sure.
I didn't say
I know.
What? I don't know how to talk to you sometimes. Okay. The market is going there.
It was just in how you said it. I'm sorry.
The market is going there regardless of why. It doesn't matter the why. This illusion, sure, I'll go full fucking tinfoil hat on it. The illusion of the scarcity of the fossil fuel industry or whatever the fuck it is that it's not even the ruining the planet part. It's that we're going to run out of oil at some point. So if you have a gas car in 20 years, you're not going to have gas to put in it whether you want it or not. Whatever the fucking reason is. The auto industry is moving to electric cars. And like Elon Musk or not, he kicked that over to a new level with the Tesla brand, whether you like it or not. That's the reality. We are moving to electric cars.
Has he cut his cost or price of the car?
I don't know. I don't think he has at all.
He most definitely has.
I don't know. I haven't really paid that much attention to the Tesla. I saw another Tesla truck in town today. There's two now.
Ugh.
They're ugly as shit. Yeah, I agree. Anyway, that's not the point. We're going to electric cars. That is full stop. Now, part of that is policy issues because Mr. Biden said that you have to by 2050 or something like that.
Huh?
There is it's I don't think it is a like binding or whatever, but there is a thing that Biden did a year ago that was like U.S. auto manufacturing. You cannot by like 2040 something or 2035 or something like that. No new gas cars will come off the line. It will be illegal to produce, or not illegal to produce, but it will be legal to sell. You can't sell a new gas vehicle after a certain date. That is a real thing that is happening. Now, that is an incentive to push the automakers into doing what they should be doing anyway. Because I think the writing was on the wall years ago. But it's certainly clear as shit right now. Do you think am I crazy right now?
No.
I mean, I think that's been a clear thing for years. I understand that it's a huge effort for these auto manufacturers to change their plants over to producing a completely different thing because it's not even, I understand it's going to take some time for them to do that shift, but I think they know that too. And so they're trying to play both sides and try to hold on to what they have for as long as they can while making the transition. It's like, no, it's just stop. Make the fucking transition. It's too late. You're not going to stay relevant if we had a real market at play. But instead, you're trying to keep a car out of the market because you can't compete with it.
Oh, they don't just push more hybrids that have the best of both worlds.
But they have the least of both, too. It's like a Swiss Army knife. It's handy, but none of the tools in there are good versions of the tool. They'll get you there.
You don't have as big of a battery as an all-electric car.
I think the plug-in hybrid is the most logical to me. It's a tiny gas tank, small gas, it's a small gas engine. It's basically an electric car with a gas backup instead of a gas car with.
That's what I'm talking about, a hybrid, yeah.
But a plug-in hybrid is electric first, where gas is, or where the old model hybrid is gas first. It doesn't matter, whatever. I think that is part. Sure, but to me that's just a transitional. I mean, it's just transitional. That's all hybrid is.
I see it as a good happy medium.
Right, but I still see it as a transition.
You're going to use the electric for your in and around town, but when you get in the interstate,
right,
where electric cars are very much lacking.
I think there's a weird mental disease that we have as Americans. Because it doesn't make I thought about it and it's I really did. 99.5% of my driving is in Knox County.
Right.
There is maybe once a year where I'd have to worry about that. And if we had the infrastructure in place, it wouldn't even be that big a deal. But even if we didn't have the infrastructure in place, but the value and savings was there, I just rent a car. I just rent a gas car to go on a trip and buy an electric car.
All right.
And honestly, if had there been an option that made sense to me, I looked at the Ford Lightning, the F-150 Lightnings.
Yeah.
I was really into it. I kind of liked the idea. I was looking at them, and I went to the Ted Russell, and they had 0 on lot, and I think he said they might have them now, and this was in 21 when I was buying that 4Runner. I think they said their first delivery was scheduled for 22 or 23. I think it was in 22 for the 23 model, so it would have been late summer 22 was their first delivery of the F-150 Lightnings. That was 2 years out from when I was trying to buy a car.
Yeah.
I was well, I guess I'm not getting that. But that was the only one that really fit what I was kind of into. I wanted a little bit bigger and stuff like that, and I wanted at least a truck frame, per se. But that was what I was kind of into, and it's okay, this one fits the bill. Oh, it's 2 years out. But I would have bought it. I think I would have. If they would have bought it, I would have put the supercharger thing in my garage, and my electric bill would have gone up 5%. But mathematically, I probably would have saved a couple $100 a year.
Is Ford Lightning all electric?
Yeah, the F-150 Lightnings are all electric trucks.
I want to say they had another Lightning model that was just gas powered.
Yeah, I don't know. I was into it. I was on board. I liked it. the commercial sold me like you can plug your house into it when the power goes out.
Right.
Like I was like that's cool. Like because it's part of the thing. It's part of the charging thing that you buy as part of it. Like you have to get an electrician to come out and pay an extra like $5,000. That's one of the things they don't tell you about in the commercials. But that's one of the things I figured out in the process is if you're going to do it, you got to get an electrician come out, put a new breaker in to a 240 volt breaker. So like your dryer or whatever.
I think I did hear a little bit about that. Yeah.
But they have this. But it's this unit that you put in your garage, and it's like, well, you can pay that $5,000, get the whole thing, get the thing installed, or whatever. Pay a little bit extra, and they'll do it the other way, so that you go plug into the garage like you're charging. But if the power goes out, your house will flip over and take from your battery instead of putting to your battery.
How long does that last?
Not very long, but depending on what the situation is, it's handy to have.
Yeah,
I'd be down with it. And again, I think, and I think one of the things that people don't understand about electric cars that I think is important is that like 70% charging is pretty quick. It's that last 15-20% that's why it takes so long.
Really?
So if you plan it out, which that's one of the things that we as Americans don't do well, but if you plan it out, it's not much longer than a normal gas stop, because you go from 15% to 75% in about the same time you would do to pump however many gallons, go take a leak, grab a soda, and get back in your car. It's just you're only going to get 200 miles of range instead of the full 300 miles that the battery's capable of.
Yeah. One issue, I don't know if it was kind of an unforeseen issue or just something that wasn't really made relevant, I guess, in the push for electric cars is, if they do happen to catch fire, like, it is a crazy fucking desire and a pain in the ass to fucking put out. Like, you have to use special stuff. Like, I've seen a couple. There's one, like, YouTube channel.
Yeah, once that lithium ion gets going, it don't fuck around.
Yeah. Some crazy YouTube channel. I've seen a couple different, like, versions of it. They're basically these giant blankets that basically kind of go over the car to try to, like, put the car out and try to
contain it.
Yeah, contain, like, the smoke because it's burning, these crazy chemicals.
Yeah, and well, I mean, those parts and pieces will catch up once we get there. But,
right.
And Tesla's got some dirty shit, and, as much as I praise Elon Musk for this, that, and the other, I hate on him too, because their maintenance and shit like that is fucking nutso. Like, they make it real hard, like that was a John Deere thing a couple years back. You remember hearing about that story? The right to repair.
Yeah.
And where John Deere had made it really hard for you not to use a John Deere certified repair technician, and those certified repair technicians pay money to John Deere to get their certification, and it's literally just like a code that you enter into the combine's computer to allow you to change a part.
Right, to access the software and stuff, yeah.
Right. And so it's like, but even on like simple stuff, apparently it was one of the things that John Deere got in trouble for, because it's like, change a tire. If you didn't get into the computer and put the information in the computer that you're changing that tire, the computer would be like, we have an error that we can't run anymore. It's like, I just changed the tire. But you don't have access to that as an owner.
Yeah, to reset it or whatever.
Right, and that was like where the whole point of the lawsuit was. And I think that's what Tesla's doing, some dirty shit like that too.
Right.
Which is dirty shit. And if there was a real competitor to Tesla, they probably wouldn't get away with that shit.
Yeah.
But since nobody else is really in the electric car market domestically, they can get away with that. If you're a Tesla owner, you're part of the clan. Not clan. Maybe. But the what's the word I'm looking for? Religious
squad.
No, they're like the crazy religious groups. Cult. That's the one that's the phrase I was trying about. Okay. Speaking of cults, let's get weird.
Remix.
Just trying to buy some time for you, man.
I'll start this first one on, I guess, automotive related.
Keep it thematic. I like it.
Yeah. Colorado woman tried to steal a pickup but couldn't handle the stick shift, police said.
I know. I'm teaching my kids how to drive a stick just for that reason.
Nice.
So they can be proper car thieves. Yeah. Never gets. I don't know. Like, again, going back to that thing, but same conversation. It's like there's no point, really. By the time they're going to buy their first vehicle, realistically, when they get jobs and work and try to buy a vehicle, it's hard. Like, it's hard to buy a stick shift now.
Right.
I got a couple of years for the first one before he's old enough. Then a couple of years past that before he's going to have the idea that he has any money to do so. But it's like, You don't really need to have it. You don't need to know how to do it.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason I'm holding on to the truck. Because they're going to learn how to drive a stick shift in that truck. Because you know what they can't do? Is fuck that truck up anymore than it already is. They can fuck the clutch up. I can put a new clutch in it if I have to.
All right.
But you run that. You can run that car into a tree or whatever. It's gonna be fine. It's all right. It's already fucking gross. I was hauling hay bales around in it for the derby or whatever.
Yeah.
And so there's just a bunch of straw and hay. Just kind of after I got the bales out, there's just a bunch of loose in there. So I had the back window open. And I was cruising down the interstate, and it was all just sucking into the cab. So there's fucking straw and hay all inside the cab now.
Nice.
It's an interesting smell when you get in that vehicle now.
Yeah, I like the smell of hay.
It's not this. That's not the smell you're getting. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Learn how to drive a stick, people, or you can't steal cars.
Yeah. Apparently, she had just gotten out of jail for car theft.
They don't have a program. There's no like associates of manual transmission while you're in prison.
Don't believe so.
I just thought it might be a worthwhile endeavor. Learn some skills while you're in jail. Be a better person when you get out. All right, you got anything else?
Nah, nothing special.
Nothing special?
Nothing great.
All right, so electric cars are the future. Deal with it.
Suck it.
I mean, that's kind of how I feel about it. But anyway. And I don't know how to push buttons anymore. Anyway. Almost screwing everybody. We did a show. That was fun. Good stuff. Big thanks to John for sitting in and telling us about how he feels about his teachers carrying guns. They're Almost Agreement at gmail.com, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Go to the website, almostagreement.com. While you're there, check out hollerboo.com. That is our October event coming up. We're really excited. Big rock show and soapbox derby and vendor fair. It's going to be a great time. If you're not familiar with Happy Hour, you should make yourself so. It's a fun, cool, unique, very, very Knoxville neighborhood. So if you think Knoxville's cool, then that's where you want to go and hang out. So anyway, we're Almost Agreement. We got stuff to keep talking about and keep doing. So we'll be back next week for more on all things cool. So thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great night, and we will see y'all soon.